Hello and welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I am your host, Nathan Hale, and boy, do we have so much to talk about today. As always, welcome. It is a kind of dreary Monday out here in the Midwest. I've been hearing that we're getting snow on Wednesday. I've been hearing that there are tornado warnings happening all over the state. I've been hearing that there are wind warnings. The weather is frankly out of control at this time of the year, and I'm ready for it to stop. I'm ready for the heat and humidity, and to feel like I'm walking to a swimming pool again in the Midwest. I'm ready for it. Usually like in the moment, I'm like, it's kind of hot outside. I don't really do anything outside. But at this moment, I'm tired of it. I at least want it to be like 10 degrees warmer out, right? So that I don't have to wear like a winter coat in the morning. I like to wear like my leather jacket and everything somewhere, look real cute, nice and everything. But I had so many stories to talk about today. When I was going through the news cycle today, there wasn't all that much that I saw that I'm like, man, this is like really like groundbreaking right now. So I feel like the stories that we have today, while they're good, you should sit through the entire show. They're not the caliber that I wish that every single thing was, but we're still going to have fun with it. We're still going to walk through it all. We're still going to break everything down for you all. But a little bit of an announcement in the beginning. So the show has officially started making just a little bit, just a few dollars of money from all of your viewership. So I appreciate all of you all watching the show, enjoying it, liking it, sharing with friends and everything. I do appreciate it. Does not go unnoticed. Couple bucks in my pocket, I'll take it. Not enough to quit my day job or anything, but certainly enough to buy a coffee with. But I appreciate it all. And I guess without further ado, we should get rolling on this first story. So the Treasury is the focus of this one. So Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that he's going to be appointing an affordability czar and create an affordability council. So Bessent also blasted the mainstream press, arguing that their coverage largely described the economy as great in the last year and a half of Biden's term. So the media has, of course, been all over the Joe Biden administration, saying that, oh my gosh, the economy is so great. We do not have roaring inflation. Don't look over here. Only look at this thing, the Chips and Science Act. Look at that. We did the Chips and Science Act, right? We had the Inflation Reduction Act, right? We have this amazing act that it helped the economy so much, right? When it really didn't, we still had roaring inflation. I remember. Sorry, my microphone went out for a second. Don't know what's going on there. All right, we should be back. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden the microphone went out for a second. I said that I went on mute. I was right in the middle of my monologue, and we have technical difficulties. See, this is why we need more people watching the show, because I can get a few more dollars in my pocket, then we can start to get some less janky equipment, so we don't have these technical difficulties right in the middle of the show. But until then, you got to stick with this. We are doing this live after all. No edits, nothing. I'm right in front of you. I'm talking all these stories with you right now. If you're watching this, you're seeing me in real time, right? So I think we should be good now. So I see the mic thing going. We should be good. But where was I? So the lie that the Biden administration pushed was that inflation was in fact going down, that inflation was on the decline, that we were doing great inflation-wise, when we really weren't, right? Inflation got skyrocketed during COVID, and it still has stayed above pre-COVID levels all through the Biden administration. So even though they said that inflation was going down and this was a good thing and everything, it really wasn't, right? We still had high inflation. So the Scott Bessent, great guy Scott Bessent, setting up an affordability council. So he said, quote, "What I find interesting is for the past 4.5 years and during the campaign, most of the media said, oh, the economy is great. It's not just a vibe session," he said on Face the Nation on Sunday. "Now that President Trump's in office, there's an economic problem, and I will tell you what the problem was." So Besant said Trump is off to a good start on improving the economy. Quote, I think President Trump said he'll own the economy in 6 to 12 months, but I can tell you what we're working on to get these prices down every day. But it took 4 years to get us here, and we've had 5 weeks. So interest rates are down. That's a very good start towards housing affordability, towards auto affordability, and we are tackling this, he said. I think this is all great. The price of goods in the United States has gotten out of hand in recent years, right? So mainly home prices. I think young people like me, I think anyone between that kind of 20 to 35 category is like, that's probably the thing that really is they're focused on most, home affordability and car affordability, because those are the main two things that are affecting us right now. Me as a college student, I'm going to be graduating next year. I'm a year away from being a full-time job, being completely out of school, right? So making sure that I can afford to be able to move out of this small apartment I'm in and into a nice house relatively soon after being in the workforce is really important to me, right? I don't want to spend, $500, $600, $700,000 on a home that before COVID was $300,000 for a home, right? I'm seeing what is on the market right now. It's absolutely insane for the prices that are out there, right? Especially when you're like me and you're used to seeing what was on the market before we had this huge housing bubble that has just grown and grown and grown and grown over time, and likely will not come down anytime soon. But hopefully, this Affordability Council will help with that. But I mean, it's a concern of my mind, right? I don't want to get old. I don't want to buy a house that is overly expensive, right? And I think that a perspective of many voters out there is that issues like this really aren't that big of an issue because they've had a home for years and years and years. Like my parents, for instance, have owned a home for decades at this point, right? So I don't feel like they have necessarily the understanding of what actually the home market is right now, as opposed to what it actually is, because they've had that security of having a home for decades versus I've never owned a home, right? So I think this is great. Bring down prices across the board. Bring down those egg prices, right? Like I said, I think I said on the show maybe a week or so ago that everything with the economy, it's going to take time to get to where we're at. So we'll reassess after a year, like Scott Bessent is saying. We'll see where we are in 6 to 12 months, and we'll hold Republicans accountable for those actions to get there. So I mean, we're going to be tracking all these major pieces of legislation that are going through to hopefully help bring affordability, to make things more affordable for Americans. And Republicans should pass all of those. And we'll see where Trump is after 6 to 12 months. And we'll start reassessing from there. I mean, these are some of the main issues that are going to kill Republicans in the midterms if they don't have anything to campaign on, right? If they can get out and say, hey, we lowered interest rates, we lowered inflation, we made things more affordable, we brought down those egg prices to everyone, right? These were huge things that Republicans campaigned on in 2024. If they're able to deliver on those promises in a couple of years and really go out and hit that hard in 2026, then we have a good shot of maintaining our hold on Washington. But my fear is that they're not going to deliver on that, and we're going to have another couple of years of Democrat rule. But we'll see how that goes, right? I want nothing but winning. I am, Trump said I would be tired of winning at this point. I am not tired of winning at all. In fact, I demand more winning, and this is more winning that I demand. All right, moving on to your next story. So, RFK Jr., vaccine skeptic RFK Jr. touts measles shot as deadly outbreak ravages Texas. But you all said that RFK was anti-vax, that he hated vaccines, that he was going to make vaccines illegal for everyone in the United States. And here he is saying that people should get a vaccine? I feel cheated. I don't feel cheated. All right. Infamously vax-doubting Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. touted the benefits of the measles vaccine Sunday as a growing outbreak of the deadly disease ravages Texas. I wouldn't say it's ravaging Texas right now, but okay. The HHS secretary, whose lengthy history of trafficking in vaccine skepticism nearly derailed his confirmation, underscored the rapidly escalating nature of the outbreak and stressed that the shots are very effective in prevention. I didn't have a whole lot to say about this other than like everyone on the left was like, RFK is this huge anti-vax guy, and RFK said during his confirmation that he's not anti-vaccine. And they said, no. You're anti-vaccine. You're just lying to us, right? You are anti-vaccine. He's like, I'm not anti-vaccine, right? He said in his smoker lung that he's not anti-vax. Here he is not being anti-vax, right? He's doing what he said he was doing, right? So once again, the left proven wrong, right, by our amazing picks for secretaries in the Trump administration. So, I'm not going to comment on the vaccines, on the effectiveness of the measles vaccine or whatever. Like, listen to your doctor and everything. Get what you think is right for you. But my point more so with this is that the left said that he was going to ban vaccines, that he was anti-vax, that, even the title says vaccine skeptic, right? That he was all these things when it comes to vaccines, when he told us during his confirmation that he is not anti-vaccine, that he very much is not an anti-vaccine person, but he wants transparency when it comes to what we're putting in our body, right? And vaccines are different, right? The COVID vaccine is different than a lot of other vaccines out there. So there's that also. My God, look at all the snow in this house. I don't even know. I was central New York. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the advertisements on the New York Post website. But no, let's move on. All right. So middle of the show. Let's talk about it. So this is from AP News. So judge weighs whether to block Florida's social media ban for minors. So you all didn't hear, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, Florida said that they were banning social media for anyone under the age of, I think it was 16. They passed it legislatively. It got signed into law by the governor, right? But I don't think that there was any sort of legislation in there that said that you needed to ID verify or anything. It was going to be a lot like porn websites where you just check the box that you're over 18 and everything, which you all know don't work, right? So I don't think there was anything put in the legislation necessarily that said that you had to be ID verified or anything to get a social media account. That being said, I'm not going to scream out here and say this is a huge infringement of people's First Amendment rights. We are talking about children here. Children do not have First Amendment rights the same way that voting age adults do. It's different. Children have their First Amendment rights violated constantly, right? So they're going to make the argument in this article that there's First Amendment violation. I don't think it's a First Amendment violation personally, but at the same time, I'd be a little bit more in favor of legislation like this if they had a more effective way of enforcing it. Also being said, I don't know why Florida is necessarily getting into all of this if they don't have an effective way to enforce, right? It seems like they just kind of wasted people's time here. I understand where they're coming from. Their rationale behind this is that social media causes anxiety, it causes depression, it causes a lot of feelings in children that children should not be feeling, which perfectly understandable, right? I think that anyone who's anything about kids around social media can agree with that, and I think the bigger issue more comes from just the society that we live in, the values that we have, and the way that our school system is educating our young, more than the social media does it. But that's just my opinion. But let's read the article. So judge weighs in on whether to block Florida's social media ban for minors. So in Tallahassee, Florida, so a federal judge is weighing whether to block a Florida law that is going in effect that would ban social media accounts for children under 14 and require parental permission for 14 and 15-year-olds. Okay. The measure was one of the most restrictive bans on kids' social media use in the country when Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law in 2024. Industry groups representing communications companies argue it unconstitutionally limits free speech. U.S. District Judge Mark Walker heard oral arguments Friday in the case brought by the trade groups Computer and Communications Industry Association and NetChoice, which are seeking a preliminary injunction to prevent parts of the law from being enforced while the legal challenge plays out. Supporters of the law have said it needed to help curb the explosive use of social media among young people, and what researchers say is an associated increase in depression and anxiety. So I'm pretty sure that's basically the meat of the article. I don't think it really goes into all that much about how it's actually being enforced. I mean, I guess go read the legislation yourself if you want to hear more about it. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm interested to hear how this goes into play and what the ruling ends up being. Because if it gets ruled that that children do in fact have First Amendment rights, I mean that's going to change a lot of ways that we treat children in the United States. Mainly when it comes to hearing them out and everything. And I mean, if they have First Amendment protections and we're forcing them to pay taxes to work and everything, then why don't they have voting privileges, right? I'm not in favor of people under 18 having voting privileges, but I'm also not in favor of taxing them either, right? I think that if you're being taxed, you should have a say in where that tax money is going for, and you should have a vote and some skin in the game here. I don't think that 16-year-olds are old enough to make a valid choice on who to vote for in an election, but also not in favor of them being taxed out of their noses for working their summer jobs and everything. But I feel like that could open up a box there that's like, okay, well, if they're having First Amendment choices, then they're being protected by the Constitution the same way that that adults are being protected to an extent, right? At least in this matter. And could there then be a lawsuit that comes about saying that either A, depending on the ruling of this, that children should not be able to get federally taxed for income tax, right, until they're 18, or two, that people under 18 deserve the right to vote, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting to hear kind of what comes out about this. We'll be sure to keep you updated. I think that what Florida's doing is they're on a good track and everything. I think this legislation is a little bit silly, but when you have 5 years of great leadership like the state of Florida has had, you get a pass on stuff like this in my book when it comes down to it. But we'll see where they are in some time. It'll probably take a little bit to hear about this again, but we'll be sure to keep you updated on the show, which is why you should be watching every Monday and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time to see what is next on Spin Cycle Live. All right, let's move on to some Pentagon news. So this is from Reuters. Pentagon orders civilian staff to justify work in Musk-led review. So there was an email that was sent out to, I think, every government employee. They needed to put down like 5 bullet points on what they did that week. It's kind of like the reminded me of the clip, if you've ever seen the movie Office Space, where they sit down and they're like, so what exactly do you do here at this job, right? Can you tell us what you do here? The left freaked out over this. I think this is perfectly rational. This is exactly what happens in private industry all the time. Any of you out there who work a private industry job know that you're writing down constantly what you're doing with your time to make sure that you're worth it to the company. Not necessarily maybe that you're providing that in every single day, but you're probably writing it down so that when your review comes around every quarter, every 6 months, or whenever that is, you have some things to talk about, you have some things to submit. Right, you're writing down the projects that you're doing, so when those promotions come around, you have some arguments of why you deserve the promotion, not Joe Schmo next to you in the cubicle next door, right? So this is perfectly reasonable. Everything government to do, right? Tell us what you're doing with your time, right? We have hundreds of thousands of government employees, right? We don't have the infrastructure to know what they're doing. They're working from home. How do we know that there's not massive fraud happening in the government? How do we know that we don't have a ton of employees that are doing multiple jobs, right? How do we know that we can't merge some things together and get rid of a bunch of people, right? Fire some of these guys, right? They're wasting taxpayer money. We've seen the rampant fraud in the federal government already. So Pentagon orders civilian staff to justify work in Musk-led review. All right. So February 28th, the Pentagon told its civilian employees that they must provide a list of 5 bullet points detailing their accomplishments from the previous week, after initially saying they did not need to respond to the demanded by cost-cutting czar Elon Musk. 5 bullet points. Wow. If you can't come up with 5 bullet points of what you did last week, you don't deserve to have whatever job it is you're doing. If you can't come up with 5 things you did, that's not even that much. He's not. I've written college essays that were harder than this. I've written scholarship essays that were harder than this. Right? 5 bullet points. I came up with 5 bullet points things I did today in my job. Right? Let alone an entire week. All right. The memo signed by the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and dated February 27th follows days of confusion over whether the federal workers needed to reply to the Musk-inspired email last weekend from the Office of Personnel Management, the U.S. government's Human Resources Department. Despite some agency heads telling staff that they did not need to comply with the email, Musk was undeterred and said workers would have another chance to respond to his ultimatum that they justify their jobs or risk termination. And guess what? This is the second time around that they're all getting informed that they have to do this bullet point thing, and there's still going to be people fired, and still going to end up on MSNBC saying that they were unjustifiably fired, and they had no idea that they were under review. They had no idea they were supposed to do this. They had no idea they were supposed to, do all this stuff. They weren't looking at their email right. Goodbye. See ya. Go enjoy your 5 minutes of fame on MSNBC and go work somewhere else for that matter. Go up to New York. Apparently they're hiring all the people that the federal government's ditching, right? All of the all the lazies. So we'll see you up there in New York. Have fun with that. All right. Last story of the week, keeping the show under a nice tight 30 minutes. Trump will host crypto summit at the White House on March 7th. So just a few days from now, March 7th, right? So Washington, D.C., so U.S. President Donald Trump will preside over the White House's first cryptocurrency summit on March 7th, further establishing his embrace of the industry. Mr. Trump, President Trump, will deliver remarks on the gathering that, quote, will include prominent founders, CEOs, and investors from the crypto industry, as well as members of the president's working group on digital assets, the White House said in a statement on February 28th. The summit will be led by venture capitalist and White House crypto czar David Sachs and will be administered by working group executive director Bo Hines, according to the statement. Shortly after taking office, the president signed an executive order to create the working group from key agencies that would advise the White House on digital asset policy and evaluate the creation of a stockpile. The working group includes the Treasury and Justice Departments, as well as Securities and Exchange Commissions and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. All right. That's all I wanted to talk about with that one. I think this is great. I think that Trump got a lot of voters from the people who might have leaned a little bit more libertarian or might not vote at all, because he's showing up and he's really embracing all this alternative sources of bringing in income, of investment, of making money. Be careful when you're doing anything investment related, especially with cryptocurrency. It can go to hell in a handbasket in about a second. But I think this is great. There's a lot of people out there who are very skeptical of our current systems, and for good reason, who are very much proponents of cryptocurrency, and Trump getting on the bandwagon, trying to embrace those people as a part of making that winning coalition that he and Republicans had in 2024. This is exactly the kind of policy that Republicans need to keep pushing out when we are running more elections in the future, is making those winning coalitions. So now with this, we can go and say, hey, cryptocurrency voters, you like cryptocurrency? The president had a cryptocurrency summit at the White House. They're trying to create a cryptocurrency stockpile for America, right? It was great. President Trump even had a meme coin that came out, right? U.S. politics right now is insane. insane that whole story even happened. But I mean, this is great news for the United States. This is great news for the American people that we're having a focus put on this. I don't invest in cryptocurrency, but I think that there are great opportunities out there for people to do so. I've seen a lot of people make a fair bit of money on it, and I think the left is very scared of it because it doesn't quite function the same way as the typical stock market does. We know that people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are making a ton of money off the stock market because they're doing insider trading, because they're doing exactly what Americans cannot do. They have more information than we do. They're making all the trades and stuff before they sign major pieces of legislation to play, right? So I think this is just another way that decentralization has really taken America by storm. I mean, you're watching me right now. We're alternative news media right now, right? We're not on any major network. We're all self-funded. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart because I enjoy talking to you all. But I mean, the deregulations taking place over America is insane. The fact that that mainstream news does not have the chokehold anymore that it does, that big, huge banks do not have the chokehold that they do really anymore as much. And a lot of these huge, heavy players that were Democrat institutions for decades are losing power every single day to the hands of people like us, who are the alternative news, right? Cryptocurrency, and people like Donald Trump, who are hosting these cryptocurrency summits and helping to bring these people together. All right, folks. Well, that is the end of today's episode. Like I said, it was a bit of a slower news day, but I hope that you still enjoyed all the stories that we had for you today. We will have so many more amazing, awesome, beautiful stories to talk about on Wednesday. Be sure to tune back in Wednesday, 5 p.m. We are on X, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, all those places we are live on. Go and follow me there at Homonatian and all of them at Spin Cycle Live. Follow the show on X at Spin Cycle Live. If you want to interact with me, you want to see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, go follow me on X if you aren't already at Homonatian. I tweet all the time. I'm a loudmouth on there, even more than I am a loudmouth here, right? So if you're into all this, go give me a follow there. Show up in my comments. I try and respond to as many as I can. Send me a DM if you think I'm doing a good job and you want to say, hey man, great job on the show today. I really appreciate it. Sounds great. Thanks so much. Love the compliments, right? Just don't be weird about it. I got a lot of weird people in my DMs trying to do weird stuff. I'm not into that, right? If you get weird with me, getting blocked. I don't care, right? Say nice things. I'll interact with you. Don't get weird though. Don't get weird, right? But with that, hope you're having a great rest of your Wednesday. I hope it's a little bit warmer out wherever you are. February is over. Can you believe it? Black History Month is finally done, right? What came and went in a flash, right? Shortest month of the year. So no more Black History Month. We're done with all that, right? Does mean though that Pride Month is nearing us around the corner. It's getting closer and closer and closer. I can feel the impending doom of the left just flipping out over it. But I feel like Black History Month wasn't that big of a thing this year. I feel like Pride isn't going to be that big of a thing either this year. So taking out the trash, we're winning every single day here in the United States, and proud to be an American, right? But with that, have a great rest of your Monday. Share the show with friends. Give it a like. Give it a follow on all the platforms, right? Tune back in Wednesday, 5 p.m. We will see you then. We will talk to you later. All right. Have a good one. Peace out. Bye.